listening to America First Radio.
And we're gonna win, win, win. And we're gonna make America great again.
Here is your host, Paul Adams.
And I'd like to welcome you back to America First Radio. This is your host, Paul Adams. I hope you had a wonderful week. And we have a lot of ground to cover today. I hope you can just relax, bring out something to drink, popcorn, and it's going to be very thick and heavy here. It's going to be a bit sad. It's a little bit like when you have a bit of a spat with your girlfriend. You know, you just don't see eye to eye on everything. So here we go. We're going to go digging very deep, and we're going to get right to the bottom of the swamp. Again, if you're of a faint heart, I would suggest you do not listen to this podcast, because it may upset you. It may give you nightmares. So far, I am quite happy with President Trump's performance. I think we all are. I keep praying for him. He has added, a couple of $1 trillion to the stock market since his inauguration. There's about $300 billion of investments pouring into the country from various manufacturers. And one thing we have learned is that he is not a politician. Okay, he is a businessman. I expected a bit of rocking and rolling in the first 3 months from the left. Trump has hit the ground running. His administration is delivering. Of course, the left has no agenda. Even if Trump was to deliver their every single dream, they would still pounce on it because they're all commies. They're Alinsky 101. Rule 5 is to ridicule. He could walk on water and raise the dead like Jesus did, and they would still call him demon-possessed. Why? Because he's pulling down their power structure. That is why. The ride is over. He's tearing apart their con game and draining the swamp. And we're going to really talk about the swamp later on here, so I hope you can bear with me. Folks, this is a no-holds-barred, rough-and-tumble forum where we get right down the nitty-gritty and the unadulterated truth in these dangerous times, very untamed political jungle that we're in. So damn the deep state, and damn the Satanists, and damn all the witches and the warlocks. We are coming at you with the truth, and we'll keep shining it on you very brightly. Remember, this is not a Trump First talk show. This is an America First talk show. There's a big difference. So let's roll. I have good news and bad news here. The good news first. I'm happy to report that the initiative to federalize elections in order to prevent election hacking and make elections uniform will be kept in place. So this could lead eventually to bigger and greater things like a secure online citizen account. Notice the White House is now reaching out to the people through emails. They're looking for their opinions through surveys. They're trying to interact with the populace, the electorate. And let's recap on what President Trump has accomplished. He has withdrawn from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He is reviving key job-creating energy projects such as the Keystone Pipeline, directing the Department of Defense to develop a plan to defeat ISIS. He is enacting regulatory reform to begin to dismantle Obamacare. Is implementing executive orders that focus on reducing crime, restoring public safety, and protecting our brave law enforcement officials. He's creating the United States-Canada Council for Women Entrepreneurs and Business Leaders. Now, I really don't know how that fits into the America First agenda. It appears to me like it's more of a North America First agenda that we are looking at here. But be it as it may, he is negotiating with companies to bring thousands of jobs back to America. And he's nominating Judge Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, and I just learned that the Democrats are going to absolutely obstruct this nomination. And he's working with 30 foreign leaders to discuss shared security concerns and solutions. And I hope he gets into it with Justin Trudeau a little bit more, because the way things are going in Canada in 10 years, it's going to be like Iran. Now, we could also add to the list that he has arrested over 1,500 pedophiles and counting. Still to come, we are looking forward to the repealing of Dodd-Frank, the reinstalling of Glass-Steagall. We are looking forward to a new 9/11 investigation, the elimination of Common Core, defunding Planned Parenthood, and at some future point in time, maybe the annexation of Canada. And I know that's not one of his campaign promises, but I like to think big. A bigger and stronger United States would include the annexation of Canada. And don't forget, you can fit Canada's population into New York City and Los Angeles. There's only about like 35 million of them. Also, folks, don't forget, you can check all my breaking news stories on Trump-X-Press.com. And we have just learned that Congress will be investigating in full the role that George Soros has played in the election. It's very good news. And now for the not-so-good news. We still are under the NDAA provisions and the Patriot Act. We still have a former president by the name of Barack, whose name, by the way, is also the name of the horse that supposedly took Muhammad up to heaven. That's how the legend goes. And this Mr. Barack Obama is headquartered 2 miles from the White House, shacked up with Valerie Jarrett and Michelle, and he is heading a shadow government. How wonderful. It makes you think we are in the Truman Show, doesn't it? What am I missing here? Why do we have a parallel government? I'm a little disappointed, yes. Apparently, an inside source has also broken this tidbit. We hear that a merciful Trump took pity on Bill and Hillary Clinton upon hearing of their ill health. Not because he approves of pedophilia, corruption, or murder, no, but because he is a spiritual man who can see that karma has caught up with them and is about to pay them back with a vengeance. And the quote from this insider is as follows. Trump has said their fate in hell far exceeds any punishment we could impose on that pair. We must concentrate on the network of crooks, pedophiles, and traffickers that exist right now and prosecute them with the full force of the law, Trump told the team in a closed-door meeting at the White House. If that is true, well, it looks like we'll never see the Clintons pay for their crimes. Not in this life. Now, I've been praying to God that He may direct and protect President Trump and give him the wisdom that he needs, and perhaps in God's good wisdom, this is the best course of action regarding the Clintons. I don't know what I don't know. They may have brokered a deal through Ivanka Trump. They may have threatened Donald Trump. He may have talked to them, and they may have told them, if you mess with us, you and your family will be in grave danger, and so will many others in the government. If, however, this is the result of just Ivanka Trump sweet-talking her dad out of prosecuting the Clintons, it's not good. I have a really bad feeling things won't go well for the Trumps if that is the case. See, it doesn't work that way. God plays no favorites, especially not with the privileged. Because we know that where much is given, much is expected. And much was expected of the Clintons, and now much is expected of the Trumps. If justice is blind for the weak and the dispossessed, it is doubly so for the privileged and the entitled. So what will happen here is, if the Clintons skate, their karma will fall on the Trumps. If they are wittingly preventing her prosecution. In other words, justice will be met one way or another. See, the people want justice, and the Clintons cannot be exceptions to the rule. No one is exempt. Not presidents, not popes, not lawyers, not judges, no one. The law is the law, and there's enough evidence to lock Hillary away for 10 lifetimes. So if justice won't prevail on Hillary, it will have to prevail on those who try to cheat justice. And I would not want to be in their position. I would not want it to fall on those who are protecting the Clintons from justice. Read the Old Testament. There are no favorites. No, there are no favorites. I'm going to say it again. If justice is not dealt, karma will visit the Trumps, especially Ivanka. And that is if, the big if she is brokering for the Clintons. Sorry to say that. Now, I'm just a messenger. On the other hand, I also read an article that Anthony Weiner is ready to sing and cut a deal with the authorities to keep him out of jail. And that should seal the fate of the Clintons. And the files in Weiner's laptop are called the Rosetta Stone by insiders. That's how extensive and powerful these files are. So my question is, why does Weiner need to confess if the authorities are in full possession of his laptop and have all the evidence? Why do we need his testimony, his collaboration, and why do we need to cut a deal with him? You know, some days I feel like I'm in the Truman Show, especially when I saw that clip of Donald Trump right after the election asking us that we thank Hillary for her service to her country. What services? What show am I on? What? Thank her for her services. And have you heard anything from Jeff Sessions lately on a special prosecutor to check into Hillary's situation? I haven't. You know, the pivot now is on jobs. It's all about jobs, more jobs. But back in the campaign, it was also about locking Hillary up. And the people are wide awake. They are not forgetful, you know. You can't put the American people back to sleep. Ain't gonna happen this time. If they are expected to have the memory of a gnat and somehow be mesmerized back into a stupor of thought, ain't gonna happen. The Lord God Almighty is not gonna let it happen, okay? We either clean up the swamp or we don't. Look, I don't know what I don't know. All I know is that there are a lot of angry Americans out there. Trigger-happy Americans. They're locked and loaded. And they're not taking any more guff. Capiche? No more guff. Then again, maybe President Trump is playing the Clintons and keeping himself out of their deadly grasp. You know, giving all the buddy bags. Maybe giving Wiener's laptops. That's all we'll need. The laptop will do the talking. And see, more bad news here. We just heard from Paul Craig Roberts as he was discussing the issue of the Russians and President Trump. Remember when President Trump was trying to get very friendly with Putin? Rightly so. You know, why should we have enemies? Why can't we work together? Now we have the anti-Russian neocons back in charge, it looks like. Is it just the neocons? Is it maybe the Israelis also? Is it the Vatican? See, I don't have all the answers. I don't really know who's pulling the strings here. Is it the Rothschilds? Is it a combination of all the above? Because it seems to me like we're back to business as usual now. Something has changed. You can feel it. You can smell it. You can sense it. It reeks. It's dripping. You know, nothing could be more important than establishing peace with Russia. I mean, what the heck? What's wrong with that? Don't we want a peaceful world? The masses do, but the elite don't. It doesn't make the money. The Rothschilds need to make their money through their central banks. Central banks can only make money if they lend out money for wars, you see. So why are we still demonizing Putin? Is Kissinger one of the captains of this sideshow? Is he directing? Is the Council on Foreign Relations navigating the administration? And then when you hear Micah Brzezinski say that it's the media's job to control the thinking of the masses, I mean, it's hidden in plain sight, isn't it? So has Trump been co-opted? Has he been threatened? Has he been compromised? Are we headed for more wars? Wars for profit? Wars for hegemony? More false flags? See, I'm not a yes man. You know, I call it like it is. I just want to know what I'm missing here. Something has happened to Donald Trump. And a lot of Americans are asking the same questions. These are very serious questions. This was supposed to have been the election when we broke free from the deep state, from the corruption, from the puppet masters. And you know how I also sense that Trump has been somehow co-opted? His haircut. He's letting his hair grow long. You know, he's got that ducktail in the back. Big hair. It's like, I don't care how I look. It is what it is. I'll roll with the punches. And why is not Putin invited to the White House and holding peace talks with Trump? Why? Well, because the way this argument has been framed now is that anyone who wants to be friends with Russia is a Russian agent. See how that mind trap works? And who's at fault for creating that mind trap? It's the media. And who are they paid by? Well, the puppet masters. So how do we get out of this mind trap? I have a solution, but I don't dare share it on here. No, I'm not going to share it on here. So when are we going to get over this false narrative about the Russians hacking the election, and why don't we get on to the real story of how Hillary was bought and paid for by the Chinese to start a war with China so that China could emerge triumphant and be the superpower of the 21st century. Let's talk about that. Where are the insiders? The big story right now is North Korea. We have SEAL Team 6 training in South Korea, simulating an assassination on Kim Jong-un. They are practicing a decapitation strike. The exercise is called Full Eagles. It's an annual joint exercise between the U.S. and South Korea. It started on March 1st and will go right through till April 30th. A lot of things can happen between now and then, because not only is SEAL Team 6 there, but we also have the Green Berets for the first time. We also have Delta Force for the first time. And we also have the Rangers down there for the first time. We have 4 special forces, all in Korea. Why? I would suggest that they're only there because a confrontation is imminent. See, Kim Jong-un is a loose cannon. He is acting like a rabid dog of war. He is like the Idi Amin of the Far East. He's like an accident waiting to happen. And he's also a Chinese tool. He takes orders. North Korea must be seen as a client state and a proxy military arm of China. We must never forget that Hillary Clinton was backed by the Chinese. The Chinese were betting on her winning the election so that she could enter into war with China. China needs resources, and it cannot wait for the United States to rearm and upgrade its military. So if it's going to act, it's going to act now through its proxy, North Korea. China, by the way, also controls the Long Beach seaport security here in Los Angeles. Anything to do with X-raying those containers coming to the United States falls on the shoulders of the Chinese. Do you see a problem with that? Do you see how easy it would be for dirty nukes or suitcase nukes to be transported in the United States and detonated and then have the incident pinned on North Korea? Can you see how China could have its cake and eat it too? As they use North Korea as a puppet state to foment a war with the United States while the nukes are in the United States, ready to be detonated by sleeper cells? Can you see the Kabuki theater? This is all part of a bigger plan. And then China plays good cop, bad cop. They shut off coal supplies to North Korea last month to make it look like they're not getting along with North Korea. The push by the mainstream media is to prepare us for a major war in the Far East. And as we speak, President Trump has ordered B-52 nuclear bombers to South Korea, plus drones, all kinds of drones. There's a talk of a first strike. In any case, Trump is coming across as a no-nonsense, zero-tolerance leader. He won't take any guff from clowns like Kim Jong-un. And as far as getting into it with China, the only option would be nuclear if we ever face off with China. We can't be mired in a protracted war with China. We don't have the resources, and look what happened to us in Vietnam. So if Korea is ignited, the culprit would have to be China. And then again, there's this other scenario, because by some accounts, there's a tail wagging the dog, and the dog happens to be, of course, America. And what is the tail? Well, for some, the tail is Israel. If China realized that the tail is wagging the dog, then what do you think it's going to do to control the dog? It will go after the tail first, won't it? Now, cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits from wars? Well, the Rothschilds, the central banks. You see, the MQ-9 Reaper drone used for attacks in Pakistan has a price tag of $6.48 million and an operational cost of $3 million. But the figure is kind of deceptive, because a full drone system requires a large infrastructure to operate. Therefore, a typical drone in a group of 4 on an active mission requires 2 active pilots, a ground station, secure data link, and even with this infrastructure requirement, the end cost is $3,250 per hour of flight time. In contrast, the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter costs nearly $91 million per unit and almost $5 million per year to operate, or $16,500 per hour of flight. And you compare the cost to a nuclear bomb, which can be anything between $2 million. From what I've read, the life extension program for the B-61-12 nuclear bomb will cost just over $8.25 billion. But of course, after you use it, you won't need to use the drones, would you? Do you think maybe ISIS is good business for the bomb manufacturers? If I was an arms manufacturer, I would not want to see a nuclear bomb go off, because it would be the end of my business. I would want wars that made me profitable, conventional wars. Of course, that would mean you'd have to convince the masses that there is a need for war. Number one, you'd have to enact a war, stage a war through a false flag, and then you'd have to blackmail and bribe politicians to appropriate the funding of the war. So let me ask you this question. What would happen to the military-industrial complex if all of a sudden there was peace in the world? Do you see the problem there? Do you see where there is no incentive to have peace? Do you see why President Trump wants to increase the defense budget by almost $60 billion? That represents the entire defense budget of Russia, by the way. Now we can segue into economics. The tip of the iceberg right now is Obamacare. Some people call it Ryan Care, Trump Care, Obamacare 2.0. Look, this is all about nickel and diming the public for something they should have a right to. If they have a right to life, they have a right to health. If they are under a certain income level, they should be protected. At least the vulnerable should be protected, right? You'd think. I get a daily White House email which briefs me on the administration's recent victories, hurdles that lie ahead, and on Saturday I got this, quote, 7 years ago this month, despite profound objections of American people, Obamacare was signed into law. Our citizens were told they would have to pass Obamacare to find out what was in it, and now they have learned it was merely hundreds of pages of broken promises. The law is collapsing around us, and we must act fast to save Americans from its wreckage. May I offer a solution? And I'm not the only one who has offered the solution. Others have suggested the same. How about a tax on derivatives? See, the derivatives market is a multi-quadrillion-dollar market. Now, I'm not a socialist, and I do not advocate Cloward Piven measures. We don't have to choose between socialist and capitalist measures. It's not an either-or proposition. We can be against socialism and yet pro-corporate welfare, can't we now? We can be pro-capitalism and pro-bank bailouts, can't we now? We can be for Made in the USA and for fair trade and still be for bailing out the too-big-to-fail banks, right? We can be for the Protestant work ethic and paradoxically can also be for the fractional reserve banking system, which allows banks to print money out of thin air. See, every time a bank makes a loan or provides credit, whether it's credit card or a mortgage, it is creating money supply out of thin air. So we can be for the middle class paying their fair share of taxes, even if this is not etched in stone in the Constitution and was relatively a modern phenomenon brought about by the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank back in 1913. So we demand the middle class pays its taxes, but we can also allow corporate inversion to take place, which does not penalize corporations for parking all their profits offshore, tax-free. See, this is the kind of Truman Show we're in, folks. Who makes all these carefully thought out, carefully crafted rules and regulations? The rules and regulations are made by the elites, for the elite. And they always are structured to disadvantage the masses, to keep the masses under control, subservient to the elite. It is all about control, folks. It's all about keeping the masses hard at work and preoccupied, distracted, and never allow them to question the status quo, because that would be empowering the people now, wouldn't it? So let's get back to Obamacare. We are trying to get insurance premiums as low as possible, supposedly, through a competitive system so that patients can have the very best possible care. Does this make sense? Lowest premiums for best possible care. Does lowering the rent to a bare minimum provide the best housing? I submit that the right to life entails a right to health. That means that for a nation to be truly great, it should be able to not only care for the well-being and health of its citizens, but also not overburden the public. What if I told you that there is a nation which had, in 1990, an extensive welfare program, exceeded perhaps by no other country? Citizens received free medical services from highly trained practitioners in modern facilities. They had free education through the university level. They had subsidized food, housing, utilities, and transportation, and various other benefits. And for all this, the citizens pay no taxes, and the system is supported by oil revenues. Do you know what country I'm talking about? I'm talking about Kuwait. On the eve of the Iraqi invasion, the United Nations Development Program placed Kuwait at the top of its annual Human Development Index with a life expectancy of 73.4 years, an adult literacy rate of 73%, and a real per capita gross domestic product of 15,984. So this was a case of the inverted pyramid, where the people were placed at the top, at the tip of the pyramid, and the elite and the vast resources of the nation were placed at the bottom of the pyramid. So how could we structure our pyramid so that it resembles the Kuwaiti pyramid? I mean, we could do it for just 5 years, 10 years to kickstart the nation. It doesn't have to be a prolonged, protracted program, because we are, after all, individualistic, self-reliant capitalists. We don't want the government to feed us from cradle to grave. So if we don't have the oil revenues, what do we have? Well, we have a casino economy where investment firms, brokerage firms, hedge funds, and banks deal in quadrillions of dollars a year. We also have casino revenues that go unreported. I'm talking about 3D, three-dimensional casino revenues, as in Las Vegas. We have also online casino revenues. We have all kinds of offshore profits, which with some effort could be repatriated. So let me just give you a number here. Let's say the derivatives sector is worth $2 quadrillion per year. And we were to take 1% of that and use it for healthcare infrastructure or security, we would have at our disposal $20 trillion a year to work with. The formula as to how the revenues would be appropriated is up for grabs. It can be massaged to fit our reality. Speaking of reality, did you know that there's the North American Securities Administrators Association, NASAA.org? You can click on that. Click on Contact Your Regulator. You'll discover that Canada and Mexico are part of this North American organization. Now, before you start barking that this is communism, think of the billions of taxpayer money that has gone to bail the too-big-to-fail banks. Think of all the money banks can create out of thin air. Think of trillions of dollars that are stashed away offshore, tax-free, in a system that is designed to favor the fascist corporations. That's fascism, folks. Democracy that favors corporations is not democracy. Elections that at the end of the day favor corporations are not elections, they are theater. They are giving us the illusion of choice to make us think we have a democracy, but in the back rooms, it's the fascia keeping us controlled. And why do you think there are fascist symbols in full view on the walls of Congress? They represent the power of the wealthy, who are bound together by secret pacts, by blackmail and by bribery. Which leads me to the next topic, make-believe world of the Truman Show, the Shadow Swamp, as it's called by Scott Binsack, B-I-N-S-A-C-K, on YouTube. This is a must-watch video, folks. It takes 90 minutes, and I'm going to summarize it in here. How are bankers, congressmen, governments, and presidents controlled? Well, by blackmailing them. By keeping a record of them having sex with children, killing children, and eating children. That is, after they are tortured and cooked. See, this is the ultimate, most repugnant, most vile act in humanity. There's nothing that tops this. It is the most abhorrent, repulsive, abominable act to have molested a child, to have abused a child, and to have eaten a child. And therefore it is the most effective form of blackmail. See, someone videotaped committing such horrendous acts would never ever want the information leaked or released. And this, folks, happens all over the world. We know of Lolita Island. The island is actually called Little St. James in the Bahamas. But there are other locations just like it. And these locations are equipped with cameras and lights and movie sets to film politicians, congressmen, bankers, royalty, as they engage in these horrendous acts with children. And then these children, of course, are featured in catalogs. You know, just like you would have a Sears catalog. And, of course, politicians are the target of agencies, secret agencies like the Mossad, which uses blackmail to get what it wants. So if you're wondering how they control the United States government, how a tail controls the dog, this is how they do it. See, Netanyahu does not want Trump to believe there's this pedophile ring. And also he doesn't want Russia getting comfortable with the United States. Even Israeli politicians are controlled by the same kind of blackmail, you see. The CFR and the Rothschilds, with their frontman Joe Lieberman, are the shadow government. So how do we get rid of the shadow government? Can you tell me? What would your answer be? And why would Israel use that kind of blackmail? What would Israel want from all this blackmail? We also have learned that Israel and the Saudis have an alliance to topple Iran and Syria and Hezbollah. And this alliance includes parts of the CIA, which also arms Saudi Arabia and then funnels the weapons to ISIS. Netanyahu calls it the Great Alliance in the Middle East. Of course, the monkey wrench here is Russia and WikiLeaks that is bringing the truth to light. I mean, when you hear of Mike Pence say that WikiLeaks is going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, you kind of wonder if Mike Pence hasn't been co-opted also, because they tell them what to say. They give them the script. The goal of the CIA and Mossad was to topple Assad. When it was proven that Assad never gassed his own people and that Russia stepped in to help Assad, well, that put a monkey wrench in the works. And Israel is using people like McCain and Graham to foment a war with Russia, and other people like Schumer, the Clintons, are all implicated in the atrocities. They are accusing Russia of hacking the election. They want war with Russia. Both the RNC and the DNC want Trump impeached because up to 70 politicians have been put on notice. Then there's Wiener's laptop that contains life insurance files, which will probably unleash all the truth on all the international pedophiles. Let's put it this way. 25%, 50% of the politicians on both the Democratic and Republican sides are implicated, and they don't want this out at any cost. So they would rather have war with North Korea or Russia as a diversion. This is not just about oil. Remember the story about the Mossad, CIA, and Turkish agents that were blown up in Mosul? Apparently Israel is panicking. They don't want Iran to win. They don't want Trump to get close to Russia because that would be the end of Israel's dream of regional control. Iran is fighting ISIS, which is the Mossad CIA creation. And Russia is fighting ISIS. And Trump is fighting ISIS. It is the ultimate storm brewing. If Trump reveals the pedophiles, if he drains that swamp, then Israel, and by Israel we mean the trigger-happy leaders of Israel, not the Jewish people, but the synagogue of Satan, these leaders would no longer have the leverage that they have on the U.S. government. And their allies, Saudi Arabia, doesn't want Trump to succeed. This is all part of the deep state, the deep shadow swamp. This is why they want Trump to fail. This is why they want Trump out. Of course, Trump has other enemies. The drug cartels. The Mexicans want Trump out. La Raza wants Trump out. The Clintons, for personal reasons, want Trump out. The United Nations hates Trump because he's talking of stepping out. Of course, the Clintons now have the goods on many of their enemies, and others have the goods on them, and so it's like a Mexican standoff. Everyone has a kill switch. If they're taken down, the switch activates, and all that dirt comes out on their enemies. And of course, they use the controlled media to get rid of Flynn with lies, and they may be going after Bannon, they're going after Sessions, and you would almost be certain that a lot of the fake stream media have also been blackmailed big time. You look at their faces when they're reporting, they look like hostages reading off a script. Look at Loretta Lynch trying to spark a civil war. Look at the lines in her face. Do you think that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schmuck Schumer are acting on their own accord? They are bought and blackmailed. You can bet your bottom dollar. They are shills. They are mini millionaires, have been controlled, and will say whatever the deep state tells them to say. They follow the script. If they are told not to clap at the joint congressional session, they don't clap. If they are told to bash Trump, they bash Trump. The two-party system is an illusion. It's a way to distract us from what is really going on, folks. We are in the Truman Show. Nothing is what it appears. If you think Pedogate is big in the United States, it is huge in the UK. Many, many, many times bigger. And those Russian diplomats who are dropping like flies, and Putin's personal chauffeur dying in a remote-controlled car crash, this is the cabals sending a message. Putin and everyone else there, punishing Putin for aligning with Iran and trying to make peace with Trump. See, the globalists cannot have Trump in the White House. No way, cannot do. They simply can't have it, because he will prove that the United States creates terrorism and it enters into illegal wars and has sold out to the globalists who control the central banks, which lend money to our treasury at interest, money they create out of thin air, only to enrich the coffers of the elite and keep the enslaved masses confused and controlled by continually taxing them, by regulating them, and by questioning their patriotism when they in turn question the government. And even Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, wants to cover up pedophilia. They should tell you something. His country, by the way, is devolving. I predict it will be like Iran in 10 years, as the left and Islam merge to form the dominant force, just like it happened in Iran, Sharia law, and become an Islamic state. And this is why we need to cut a deal with Canada, so we can reverse their insane immigration policy. Canada is trying to break up the United States. Also, they are courting Oregon and Washington to break away and join Canada. So, folks, if I was President Trump, I'd be taking serious measures to annex Canada wholesale, so he can control the immigration within it and put the fires out before they start. We got to be proactive, not reactive. We've seen this movie before. We've seen it unfold with Muslims in Sweden, Germany, France, and now, what, we want it just north of us in Canada? I don't think so. So if we annex Canada, we'll be the second biggest nation by landmass. And we'll have the resources, we'll have the water, we'll have the Arctic, and a first-rate defense shield. I truly believe this is America's manifest destiny. Forget about the oil in the Middle East. Let's focus on Canada. Till next time, thank you for listening. God bless America. God bless President Trump.